All right. So just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up about what's happening, we're going to have three readers before I read from my book. And I will introduce them and are going to read their lovely, beautiful work for you. Um, the first reader we have up is, I call her my writing buddy because she's kind of been with me from the beginning. Her name is Sylvia Santiago, and I'm just going to read a bio for before each one, and then we'll let them read. So here we go. First one. Sylvia Santiago is a writer, collagist, and hobbyist photographer. Her prose poems and flash fiction have recently appeared in Heavy Feather Review, Anti-Heroine Chic, and Gone Lawn. Sylvia is also an assistant poetry editor at Parentheses Journal and a submissions editor at Uncanny Magazine. She and Jenny met 10 years ago at a 12-hour writing marathon. Neither of them made it to the end, but they've been friends ever since. Everyone, please welcome Sylvia Santiago.
Yay. Thank you, Jenny, and congratulations again on your chapbook. Um, One of the themes Jenny suggested for readers was place. And even before COVID, I wasn't big on traveling, and this will be evident when you hear the poems I'm going to read. One of them takes place at a rest stop, the other at a factory, and the last one in a sunflower maze. This first one was published in Gone Lawn. I can't drink coffee without thinking about the time we drove to Seattle for the Ben Harper concert. My boyfriend was studying for finals, and the girl you were seeing said she wasn't into black music. The I-5 was a river after midnight. Our ears had stopped ringing just enough to appreciate the rough edges of Ben's voice as it bled from the speakers. We were childhood friends with a history of bad decisions that left no one but us feeling good. He pulled the Jeep into a rest area, even though neither of us was tired. Our eyes met, reflected in the windshield. We sat on top of a rickety picnic table with our coffee gone cold. It was a few hours until dawn. Everything was dark around the edges. I turned to ask if we'd make it back in time for our first class, and you answered with a kiss. When you pulled me onto your lap, my eager knees knocked our cups to the ground. My mouth tasted of coffee until it tasted of you. The next one is about, it takes the idea of the mythical siren of the sea who lures sailors to their death and imagines her instead as one that is landlocked and is given to more protective instead of destructive tendencies. It's called The Factory Siren, and it was in Crow and Cross Keys. The factory siren, or virago ex machina, is native to far-flung lands where the air is heavy with sweat. She is drawn to noise mechanical and to misery female. Common habitats include buildings of industry where the walls sag, crumble, and threaten a return to earth. Within the walls of such a building, women run machines. Cuts of cloth become things of beauty, destined for those richer and lighter. Amid clink and clatter, the factory siren weaves her song, threading together disparate melodies. A lullaby crooned to a sickly baby, a tune hummed while rinsing rice for the pot, a lament for the girls who must earn instead of learn. In earlier times, a chime of 4 or more sirens would occupy a building and sing in unison. However, studies now show that virago numbers are dwindling. Women no longer respond to siren song. The music does nothing to stop the hollowing of eyes and the emptying of hearts. And this last one features 2 of my favorite things, the composer Frédéric Chopin and the Sunflower Maze, called Chopin and the Sunflower Maze. He doesn't speak much English, and I speak zero Polish and negligible French. Fortunately, language isn't a barrier in imaginary conversations. Chopin smiles when I ask if I can call him Fred. He tells me there are no sunflower fields in Paris. We stroll the dirt path of the maze, and sunflowers nod their huge yellow heads as we pass. He asks if I play the piano. I tell him I studied with the Royal Conservatory of Music as a child. I also tell him that Nocturne in C minor was the first piece I learned outside curriculum. It's early morning and the air is still cool. Soon the sun will bully the clouds away, and the maze will be overrun with families and with millennials toting fur babies. Fred asks if I've always been drawn to the key of sadness. I don't reply because we both know the answer. The sunflowers sway in the breeze. He stops to admire a towering flower head, his face wan in the sunlight. I read that Chopin asked for his heart to be returned to Poland after his death. I wonder what it's like to know where your heart belongs. Maybe if you know that much, it doesn't matter how well your life turns out, or doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. My darling writing buddy. Um, Sylvia and I started like right before there were publications or anything. She was there right from the beginning when I didn't have any publications. It was just us writing in the library and just imagining what it'd be like and sharing thoughts. And that was 10 years ago. Wow. And let's hope there's another 10 more years to go, at least. Thank you. Okay. I hope that was a great, wonderful teaser. Her Sylvia's work always just gets me right here. So, next up, our second reader is Karen Hedit-Nimi, and I'm just going to read her bio here. I am also very thrilled that she said yes when I asked her. Karen Hedit-Nimi is a writer, traveler, and street photographer from Victoria, the ancestral and ceded lands of the Lukwangan and Songhees people. Born in Michigan, she immigrated with her family to Vancouver Island as a child, later becoming a Canadian citizen. She lived for 27 years on the northern prairies of Alberta, where she raised her family and helped lead an environmental education charity. Karen now expresses love for the natural world through stories and images. Her place-inspired essays and poetry have been curated by Grain, Welter, Lunch Ticket, Prairie Fire, Haiku Canada Review, Event, and other literary journals. In 2020, Karen won the nonfiction contest from the Royal City Literary Art Society and was honored to judge 2 subsequent contests. In 2023, her haiku earned the Award for Excellence in the Setouchi Matsuyama International Competition. Her atmospheric photos appear on the covers and pages of Pithead Chapel, Cut Bank, About Place, Seaside Gothic, and have been nominated for Best of the Net. Karen lives with her husband, pup, and a small garden near the Salish Sea. Her pockets are full of pebbles and sea glass. Find her at agoldenhour.com or on Twitter/Instagram at Karen Hedit. Karen. Everyone, please welcome Karen. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much. Oh, Jenny, I'm so excited for you and your chapbook. It's absolutely lovely. I already heard it. And Sylvia, those poems were gorgeous. Absolutely. Okay, so what I'm going to read today is a new piece of writing. I felt inspired to put some new words to paper after being invited to this launch. And I share quite a bit of wanderlust like Jenny. And so I have written about a coordinate of disorder and maybe a little bit of order. So this is a piece of creative nonfiction flash memoir. And I've work in progress title, I've called it Fire to Breathe a Mountain. Down a steep ravine, Fiddle Creek gurgles through the lodgepole pines. The creek parallels the mountain road to Miat Hot Springs in Jasper National Park. It's a long, winding, unlit stretch that leads us away from the main highway deep into the backcountry. Many cars seem to pass us exiting, but why aren't any following us behind? I have my initial unsettled fears: bears, ongoing burning wildfires, the remote wilderness that seems far from safety. But pulling into the gravel parking lot, my anxieties ease. The historic bungalow cabins are enchanting, Tom Thompson-esque. Single pane windows with wrought iron latches, hand-hammered doorknobs, and a bell jar for the porch light. A small herd of bighorn sheep parade through the site, nibbling on grasses before slipping into the twilight forest. Inside our cabin, the focal point is a fieldstone fireplace with a wood slab mantel. Beside it, a box of firewood, stocked from the exterior by removing a panel like old-fashioned milk delivery. Gary gets to work chopping kindling, and soon the fire is snapping, warming the stones. Sometime in the night, the poodle woofs with her low, concerned tone. I tune in from my half-sleep, disoriented by a rumbling overhead on the metal roof. A bear? Hail? No, I smile to myself. It's the bighorn sheep. Morning seems less smoky. We take our swimsuits and venture up the road to the steaming pool house. There are 4 outdoor pools of varying temperatures. After an exhilarating round of plunging, I give them names. The 2 coldest ones, Ice Cubes and Mountain Morning. The 2 warmest, Summer Rain and Après Ski. Afterwards, we hang our swimsuits to dry on the cabin's Adirondack chairs and then go exploring near the picnic area. There's a woman in a billowing turquoise silk robe facing the mountain ridge playing her violin, practicing or freely composing, assigning a minor chord and undercurrent to the wildfires. It's a mournful, haunting piece of music, and she is an apparition, a mirage out of place. We then hike a boardwalk trail to the source of the hot springs, where mineralized water flows out the side of the mountain in sulfurous fumes, coating boulders over time in a luminous pearl green. I put my hand in the earth's liquid breath, geothermal groundwater that has traveled 2 miles upward through interior passages no human hand has touched, now brushing my fingertips at nearly 50 degrees Celsius, the same unbearable air temperature we recorded on our deck last summer during the deadly heat dome. I am a different person now, anointed by the mountain, more alive and recharged. In late afternoon, the trees are still. There's a golden filter on the world from wildfire smoke. The chalky stone face of Sulphur Ridge, hazy in the distance like a dream, provides a painted backdrop for the grassy tableau. Gary reading a book, both pups at his feet. I sit at the picnic table, open my journal, lay ink across the page. A comma butterfly alights, gleaming, spotted, fossilized amber. Its delicate, paper-torn wings close and open, close and open. We soak up the mid-September sun, listening for sounds in the woods. An hour passes slowly. Pink seeps into the sky. The leaves on the mountain trees imperceptibly graduate to autumn hues. Nothing happens. Yet everything is happening in geological time, as it has for thousands, millions of years. We wait, hope, for the bighorn sheep to return.
Wow, that was awesome, Karen. Thank you. For those of you that don't know, Karen and I have never actually met in person. We've only talked on Twitter. And so I've actually never quite heard her voice, and this is my first time hearing her read. So it was a treat for me. I was like, I'm going to get someone that I want to hear I've never heard read before in my launch. And she said yes. So thank you. That was awesome. Thank you very much. So we're going to take a little bit, before we get to the third reader, we're going to do something a little different. And I've never seen this happen on Zoom before, so we're going to try it. I want to do a trivia giveaway. And what's going to happen is I'm going to ask a question from that, the answer is found in my chat book, but I'm going to ask a question. And the first person that gets the answer right, so everyone get the chat ready. The first person that answers right in the chat, it's just like we're gonna then they're gonna win the prize. And if you're curious, the prize will be these little Shiba Inu sticky notes here. So if you win, I'll pop this in the mail for you and send it off. And those of you that aren't interested, just sit back and have a drink and enjoy the comments. I hope we get some answers here. So if everyone can find the chat who wants to participate, I am going to ask the one. I only did one question because I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm going to ask the one question, and then you guys can enter in your answers, and we'll see what happens. The question is, in my chapbook, I specifically named 3 cities. Lisbon is one of them. What are the other 2 cities I list? And because the world is big and wide, I'll give you a bit of a hint. Both of the cities are in Japan. And give you guys a couple of minutes to see how this goes. And let's see. Oh, thank you for guessing, Karen. No, not Tokyo and Nagasaki. But they are 2 very oh, Vicky. Yes, you got it. Okay, that was great. Okay, awesome. That ended up quicker than I thought. Yes, Osaka and Kyoto are the 2 are the 2 cities in Japan that appear in my chapbook. So okay,
Good job, Mom. I guess my kids are getting some stickers.
Vicky, since you know Erin, I'm just gonna get your contact information from Erin, and I'll send that to you on the way once we're done this launch, if that's okay with you. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. Okay, that went not too bad. All right. Okay, let's do the third reader, and you guys are gonna love her. The third reader is Karen Pierce Gonzalez, and her bio goes like this. An artist and award-winning writer, Karen Pierce Gonzalez's chapbooks include Coyote in the Basket of My Ribs from Kelsey Books, True North and Sightings from a Star Wheel, both origami poem project microchaps, and forthcoming, Down River with Lee Poe from Black Cat Poetry Press, and Moonkissed, a hybrid of art, poetry, and prose with a North American publisher. I am very excited about that, by the way. Everyone, let's please welcome Karen Pierce Gonzalez.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who's come today to share Jenny's good news. We all know she deserves it. And I'm sure this is only going to be one of many. And pinhole poetry, you know a good thing when you see it. And I met Jenny not that long ago. She actually wrote one of the blurbs for Coyote in the Basket of My Ribs for me. And I met her and was totally bowled over by her visual art, by her poetry film series. That's how we connected at first. And it's been uphill from then. So thank you, Jenny, for inviting me. And thank you, Sylvia and Karen, for giving me a high bar to reach. Okay, I am only 5'2", but I will do my very best, okay, to get there. I have 2 poems, both published. On track, sun and moon lights, wired together over a railroad junction. Signal to flagmen, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. In the train's coach, we were by a town, flat walls, blank windows, street lamps unlit. Stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. The conductor eyes the horizon rising above parched sidewalks, unpeopled streets, and stokes steam-powered engine. Smoke billows up. Stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. The end of that line is an oak tree branch climbing into the sky. Mouths open, we see our reflections in the rails, car, leaf, street, glass. Then the second poem. Thank you. Homebound. Oh, I really love this one, and this is just so perfect for Jenny's travels around the world, although this takes us into the higher, like, stratosphere of the galaxy. Homebound. It's impossible to be anywhere else. The galaxy always travels with me. We are strung together like the spine of a suitcase hurling through space, a star running away from its stellar nursery. Tucked into the luggage lining of this solar system, I am held, a full moon humming by gravity. But when the unsettling force of an exploding red star jostles me back and forth, I pick a spot in the Milky Way, slide a straw in, and drink up. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Those were wild. I love it. I call Karen a creative whirlwind because she always has something on the go. You can see in her background all her wonderful, beautiful art pieces. She makes these fiber sculptures, and they're always very, very stunning. And as she mentioned, we first met with My Poetry Films, and she's been a great supporter of these little films, which you guys will get a sneak peek of one a little bit later. But thank you so much, Karen, for coming today. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Erin,
Okay, it's your turn, Jenny.
Yeah.
Okay, my dog is over here and he's just about had it. So hopefully he'll be quiet while I have to do my part here. So Jenny Wong is a writer, traveler, and occasional business analyst. Her favorite places to wander are Tokyo alleys, Singapore hawker centers, and Parisian cemeteries. Her work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, the Best of the Net Anthology, Best Small Fictions Award, and the Forward Prizes for Best Single Poem Written. Her most recent endeavors include creating short poetry films and attempting to plan a trip to her 25th country. She resides in Canada near the Rocky Mountains. Shiftings and Other Coordinates of Disorder is her debut chapbook. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you, Erin. And thank you, everyone else. Everyone so much. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate I'm seeing some names here that make me so happy that you're here. First of all, before I read, I just want to show you guys the chapbook that Erin made, and it is, I'm biased, of course, but it's very beautiful. So thank you, Erin, for creating a beautiful book. If any of you are writers or aspiring writers or want to try your hand at publishing, please consider Pinhole Poetry. Erin has taken such good care of my work, and she's very organized and very detailed and lovely to work with. So, if you're looking for an in, please give her a shot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So just to show a little bit of detail about our example of the detail Erin does. Inside the chapbook, the first vellum flyleaf is a map of Lisbon, and the last one is a map of somewhere in Japan. I can't tell because the letters are actually Japanese, so I don't know exactly where, but I'm very happy to see that, those little pieces in there, those little details, because it matches.
I'm
and
pretty
actually
sure the last one is Tokyo.
Is it Tokyo?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm pretty
awesome.
sure. Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
the center part is the Imperial City, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
but I've never been there, so you would know better than me.
I will have to check my pictures, but thank you, Erin. But that's just a little example of the detail Erin goes through and the care she puts into everything in this press. But as I said, that segues perfectly into the first poem, which is called Leaving Lisbon at 3 a.m. And I do mention some Portuguese street names and sites here, and I apologize for my pronunciation at the beginning. But here it goes. Leaving Lisbon at 3 a.m. In this taxi, a radio needle prods the airwaves, finds a song to pinpoint this moment. The cinema of passenger windows, a replay of past days. Arrero, Marquis de Pombal, Reservatorio de Maya d'Agua das Amoreiras. This is how it feels to revisit a memory at night. Moments trapped in streetlight, hints tucked in shadow. I will miss this city more than I've ever missed home. But still, I ready my body for another return, to leave anonymity once again. I do not want to be found. A bridge's underbelly, graffiti scenes. A girl reaches for a light bulb's curve. White rabbit freezes. Its single flat eye carries the color of a late night flight. Thank you. All right, so we go from Lisbon. So I left Lisbon at 3 a.m., head home. So that segues into the second poem in this chapbook. I'm not going to read it cover to cover, but this just happens to be the order I want to read. The next one is called Framing October in My Bedroom Window. The geese take to sky, redraw themselves into dots and dashings, pencil marks against a bare canvas of cloud. The rabbits stub over the summer held in their earth-colored coats, become whispers of white to match the impending sound of snow. I think of the things that will eventually leave me, while the trees undo their ragged crowns and show the leanness of long winter bones. Thank you. So from October, I'm going to skip the cold, brutal winter of Canada, and we're going to go straight into August. And there's something about August with me. It seems to be a more prolific month for some reason. I seem to I don't know whether it's the heat or what, but I tend to write more in this month. Especially August 2022 had a lot of poems from that month ended up in this chapbook. So the first one is called August Storms. This is the month where I learn about burnout, and the sun becomes a live match centimeters from the skin. While shingles singe on rooftops, the tarmac melts down along the edges, and a shaken soda sits on the counter, bottled neck, ready to burst. He tells me he is going out and doesn't know when he'll be back. Despite the heat, ice has a particular burn. The lawns have begun to disintegrate into brittle lessons about primary colors. Observe what happens to green when there is no longer blue. Feel the prick of parched, dry yellow. When scientists announce that rainwater is no longer safe, air conditioners gasp through sweating metal gills. Highways screech with friction and brakes. The clouds continue to grumble and darken, heavy with unpronounceable toxins and undrinkable rain. Thank you. That poem was first published in Yuzu Press, which is a press in Singapore. My first publication in Singapore, which is cool. All right, so continuing on with the August theme, the next poem is Inhaling Smoking Particulate from Alberta Forest Fires. Young wildfire chasing the sun, a fevered graze licking down the land, deconstructing greens into black scars and blisters. While I languish in the city, breathe in the remainders, ashes taking root in my chest. As soot-stained dreams boil the sky, capture a bird in hand and pluck the feathers for smothering. Thank you. And the last poem in this August trio, Erin kind of alluded to it. This poem has had quite the history with pinhole poetry. It did show up in volume 1, issue 3, so the first year. And then it also appeared in this chapbook, the selected works. So this is a collection of the first year, Pinhole's first year. Again, Erin made it, and you can see it's very beautiful. Also available in their shop. Yes, and and then it finally ended up here. So thank you, Erin, for taking this poem 3 times. I think it's finally found its forever home in here. Yeah, it was an interesting journey for it. All right, it's called Notes to Myself on Chore Day. When the mountains glower and throw thunder over their shoulders, observe how the heart is a fallible muscle, the way tomatoes redden in their cages, the way cantaloupes weave withered webs on their skin, the way an eggshell turns translucent when held against light. Listen to bitten nails chase the white rattle of the last aspirin in the bottle. Restore factory settings. The washing machine spins the circumference of a yawn, the downward trajectory of settling. Allow an evening teacup to collect the stars. Identify the mechanisms for unlocking a jaw and swallow sand-slinked dreams. When your mother calls and says, I have a cream for that, count the number of times a wire must coil and bite to bind a notebook. Collect expired items. Think back to a time when a stamp needed the press of a tongue. 31,536,000, the amount of seconds in a year. Factor in gravity. And remember the way a parched August longs for rain. Thank you. So that ends the August segment. There is one more August poem in here. It's called August Storms Again. I'm not going to read it. I'll save you guys that. But it does appear in, it is in the chapbook, and it is a short poetry film that I made. So if you want to check out my YouTube channel and listen to me read it there, you totally can. It actually started out as a film first. It's the first one that's happened so far was film and then poem. So a little background on that. So after this August segment, the chapbook kind of takes off and hits the road again. So it's leaving home, and as the trivia question alluded to, there are 2 cities in here from Japan, Kyoto and Tokyo, or sorry, Osaka and Kyoto. And there's 2 poems in here, one for Osaka and one for Kyoto. I'm going to read the Osaka one, just because it has a bit of an interesting story. I remember the day I wrote this poem. And it was 2017, we were in Osaka, and it was pouring rain. So we had to find something to do inside. So we decided to check out an art museum. So it's really cool because there's always these cool little details in Japan that I love. But we walked in, we folded up our umbrella, and to the side, there's these little stalls for individual umbrellas that you can kind of park your umbrella. So it's not like here where you kind of dump them all into a container and they kind of drain into a collective pool. In Japan, they kind of have like a little parking lot for your umbrella to slot in. And I just thought that was so neat. And so we parked our umbrella, we paid our admission, and then we took the escalator downstairs because this was an underground museum, underground art museum. And I fell in love with all of the paintings, the photography. It was just beautiful, and my writer brain was just going off and finding all these things. So I found a bench. I pulled off to the side. I found a bench. I whipped out my notebook and I took my pen and I started writing all these ideas that I was having. And then someone came up to me, and I don't know if she was a docent or a security guard, but she was very kind and she said, "You're not allowed to have pens in here." And I was like so embarrassed, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry." And I put the pen away right away. I like opened my purse, shoved it in, and I was apologizing. And then I look up and she's offering me this, which is a tiny disposable pencil. And I thought that was just so touching. One, made me feel better that the fact that I had these on hand means that I wasn't the only one who tried to do that. And two, it was just kind of like a gentle permission to, you can't use a pen, but here, please continue making your art. And that story has just stuck with me. And I just kind of wanted to share the story behind this one poem before I continued. So let's go to the reading. The poem is called Notes from the Subterranean Art Museum, Osaka, Japan. The olive grove and the catalyst of mountain gates, my head caught between landscapes, watched by a giant fish with a light bulb eye. There are no pens allowed, no ink to be spilled, only a hidden sweetness, a smell of dried sour plums seeping between the parched cracks in the floor. The sign calls it Portugal, but the colors are altered or gone. There's no sea of red roofs, no slither of blue Teju, no streets tiled in mermaid scales or limestone stars. Only snow, with smudges of peeled orange on the side and swirls of black garbage bags beneath. How can this be the same world? The sadness of a white autumn, the cultivation of small hurricanes down south. Thank you. All right, and now we get to the final poem of my reading, which is actually the final poem in the book. There was a weird dichotomy that happened when I wrote this book. The first poem, Leaving Lisbon at 3 a.m., was written during the same trip as the last poem in this book, Lactic Acid, except the timings were reversed. So Leaving Lisbon at 3 a.m., I wrote the very last few hours I was leaving Lisbon in the taxi. And Lactic Acid was written the first few hours I had arrived on that trip in Lisbon. We had arrived late. We got in, checked into our apartment, and fell asleep. And jet lag kicked in for me around 5:30 in the morning, which I actually like jet lag sometimes because it actually gets me up and going and wide awake before I normally do. So I got up 5:30 wide awake. And I just kind of walked around, and our apartment overlooked a shopping and restaurant street, which was like crowded with like tourists and people trying to get like waiters and people trying to get people into restaurants. And it was just like a nice bustling little hub. And it was busy all day and busy very late into the night. But at 5:30 in the morning, it is quiet. And the sun was just coming up at that time as well. So I had this little sliver of Lisbon just to myself. And I remember thinking, like, it's one of those travel moments where you're just like very happy. And the best version of myself kind of comes out when I travel, and I keep wondering why that is. And as I was watching this empty street below me in the quiet, I had something popped into my head, and it's probably the truest answer I've ever had so far as to why I keep wanting to travel and leave. And that line ended up as the last line in this poem, which I am not going to read because this is the sneak peek to the short poetry film, which technology willing we will see.
Okay.
Overseas, I lie awake again, attempt to reconcile the hollows of old debts. I think of inheritance, parents, grandparents, the way my fourth toenail curves instead of flattens, my susceptibility to sleepless nights, the ineptitude of my lungs when I run. And yet there's something deeper, an innocent thievery, absent of intent, a time when my bones stole calcium from my mother's bones, whose bones stole from her mother's bones. How far back does this legacy go? How far have these minerals traveled? My great-grandmother had a streak of white hair even before she crossed the ocean. Perhaps as we get older, our skeletons begin to show. There's something inside me that eats away any desire for stillness. And perhaps this is why I wander. Something in my bones, looking for home.
Oh, great. Well, I can say good evening to you all and thank you for coming to the launch. If you don't have a copy of Jenny's book yet and you would like a copy of Jenny's book, oops, this one right here. And Jenny, did you give all yours away? Because if
No,
you,
I still have a few author copies left if someone
okay,
wants to get in touch
so
with me.
maybe contact Jenny, and then if she runs out, there's always more at, well, I shouldn't say there's always more. We're getting close to only having 15 left. So,
Oh, really?
yep, yep,
Wow.
yep. So don't sleep on it.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations again, Jenny,
Thank you.
and Sylvia and Karen, and of course you, Erin.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming today. It's good to see everyone and get this launch this little thing into the world finally.
It's an absolutely beautiful little chapbook. I've read it 3 times so far.
Oh,
Yeah. That's why I didn't answer the question, the trivia. I knew the answer to that.
oh.
But yeah, no, it's beautiful, Jenny, and I'm just so happy for you. And this is not going to last long. This first edition, when I flipped to the back and I saw how many they were, I was like, that's not enough.
Well, there's always second printing. Don't worry.
There's
Don't worry.
always second printing. But anyway, thank you so much for inviting me, and it was just a pleasure to share your special launch. And I'm wishing you a relaxing weekend now that you've got this a big announcement and all your beautiful poetry out in the world. So congratulations.
Thank you,
I can
Karen.
just relax.
Yeah. I'm planning dinner right now. My mind's kind of on what's next for dinner. All
Well,
right.
thanks again, everyone, for coming. And thank you, Jenny, for trusting Pinhole Poetry with your work. It's very lovely, and I feel very grateful.
Thank you.